Hey, welcome to Write More Light. My name is Sarah. I'm with the Midwest Writing Center, and this is a web series. What you can expect from this series, in case you're unfamiliar, once a week I'll give you an itty-bitty writing lesson, and once a week we will all be fortunate that I'm sitting down with someone else and picking their brain about whatever it is they do in the arts. Today, at the end of the video, I'll give you updates about the Midwest Writing Center and leave you with a writing prompt. Today, I am really excited to be hanging out with Allison Means, who is Assistant Director or Marketing Director at University of Iowa Press. She is a really, really cool person that I met at a writing conference that was sort of dumb and very good luck. Um, and hopefully, we at the Writing Center will be seeing more of her in the future. Thanks for hanging out, Allison.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here.
Is that a my off the cuff intro? I felt okay about it. Do you feel okay about it?
I do feel totally fine about it.
So to start, I'm going to ask the largest, most open-ended question, and then we'll get into like work things. But I'm just assuming you love books. Can you tell me what you love about books?
I love everything about books. So I think, you know, actually a good example. So I just read um 19 Minutes by Jodi Picoult, which is about a school shooting, because I was like, I have to be aware of these things. If there's anyone who can spin a story, I cannot do this in the nonfiction world because it just is too upsetting. But I was like, okay, if I can get some kind of level of understanding of something like this from someone like Jody, like we'll do it. And I gave myself 40 pages, and if I was too upset, I was going to stop reading it. And I read the whole thing. It's long. It's like 355 pages or
Her books
so.
are long.
Her books are long, yes, but it was so good. I was upset a lot of it, but you know, maybe not cathartic upset, but also like, okay, I get it. And then I was like, okay, now I need a total break from that and reality. So I then read a fourth book in a superhero romantasy series where the love interests are a superhero with the ability to read feelings and a ballerina who is being stalked by a vampire. So, like what can you not love about books if you can get this wide variety of things and information going into your brain or breaks from like the world? I'm all for it. And there's just nothing like a book that can, for me, transport me in that kind of way.
Excuse me. I am so excited you said all of this. So when I think of UI Press, I think of like maybe not super highbrow, but like definitely if I'm carrying that book around, I am happy for people to see it, you know? Like, oh yes, I am reading this book. Let's talk about it. I'm very cool. Um, and you brought up two really accessible books, right? Jodi Picoult is a bestseller
Mhm.
because she's accessible. You can read her books without like you can fly through her books.
Mhm.
And okay, I really want to read this Romantasy series. We should talk about this later.
We
That
will.
sounds so fun. Um, uh, yeah, and so I feel that's a big thing for me is like, especially existing in Iowa, right? We have this really pervasive idea that like there's a barrier to access with literature, and
Mhm.
that's just silly. Like art belongs to everyone.
Yes.
That's like, I don't know. That was the best intro answer for somebody who works at such a, I don't know, classy press.
Yes. Well, good. Yeah. I mean, like I read our stuff too, of course,
Obviously.
and we do, novels and like of things you'd find anywhere as well. So, but I also like I need a break from that stuff as well. Like
Mhm.
for me, it can't just be work because that might in some ways kind of spoil it for me. So like I have
Oh
to
my
go
God, right?
outside. Yeah.
When I even like so I write reviews, and even when it's like the best book I've read all year, at a certain point it's work because I have to be taking notes, I have to be thinking about what's going on in the text. And that happened recently where I was like, wow, I'm having so much fun. Oh, I forgot to pay attention.
Yes.
And I mean, I would have said basically the same thing as you. Like I love books. I just love books. And I'm in grad school and I do reviews, so a lot of my reading is required reading. No matter
Mm,
how good it is, I have to do it, and that makes it feel like work.
yes.
But I love I love them all. I like to tell people I'll read anything, and the example I give was a not fun book, unfortunately. Of like I'll no, really, I'll read anything. Is I read a book. I grabbed the book because there was a dinosaur skeleton on the cover. And I was
Love
like,
it.
I want to know about dinosaurs. I didn't have like a dinosaur phase as a child.
Hmm.
And it ended up being about I was going to say the legal lawsuit, the legal situation surrounding Sue the T-Rex. So it was like not a dinosaur book at all.
No. Yes.
And then another example I use, like I've never played a video game in my life. We had a Frogger CD-ROM during my
You didn't do Oregon Trail?
only at school.
Are you? Well, that counts.
Yeah, it's true. I just didn't think of it that way because it's like, you know, it was at
Yeah.
school. Uh, yes, I have played Oregon Trail and died many times. Uh,
Same.
but I read a book about video games and it was freaking awesome.
Hmm.
But I didn't have any background information about video games. So,
Uh-huh.
hi, sweetie. Um, but yeah, at the end of the day, like we're either here for education or entertainment, and like why would we just not let ourselves be entertained? Like why would we
Yes. Well, and
let
I
there
have to
be a
say,
barrier to that?
having read your book reviews, like, that's something I feel like people think like that should be easy. I can do that. I can say it's hard. I mean, I do this for a few friends that are writers and I genuinely like their writing, so it's easy for. But it is a different experience reading it with that because like I'm also like, okay, I have to be cognizant of spoilers and all that. So I can't say that I love this part because that gives away a huge part of the book. So there's all these things that I feel like reviewers have to dance around that can actually be really challenging.
Actually, the last review I wrote, the book was like entirely spoiler, and it was really hard. Normally, I like to quote a section or talk about
Mhm.
like devices or whatever. And that book, I couldn't be like, oh, the twist.
Yeah.
I couldn't be like, pull quote because it talks about the stuff happening. It was really
Hmm.
hard.
Yes. And I like my job because like when I'm presenting our books to our sales reps or people, it's my job to spoil,
Oh,
to just
great.
give them the, like the meat and that's it. So I don't have to worry about that.
That is a relief.
Yeah. Otherwise it
Um,
would be awful.
but how did you get into this, I guess get into publishing? Not maybe this role, but this world.
So I was an English major and so always I went to college thinking I have no idea and then maybe I'll be a business major, and then I was like, no. And I think
I do not see
really
that for you.
yes, really quickly in my freshman year, I was like, so I really just like to read. So I guess I should probably do something with with that. And and then I got to senior year and was like, I don't want to be a teacher. So what do I do now? And now I feel like they have this, like all these resources for people who are looking to, make their interest into a career. But like back then, not really. So I had to go over to the career center and say, help me. Like I need advice. I'm graduating in, a year. What do I do? And the person that I met with was, we just, what do you like to do? I'm like, well, I like to read, and she was like, well, and she's like, have you ever thought about publishing? And I said, what's that? And, and she was like, see the spine of my bookcase, like all these little, and I'm like, she's like, those are the, I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, no, I've never even thought about that as a job. So she actually sent me, I went to Iowa. She sent me over to the press, which I didn't know existed. And I she called over and I met with the marketing director at the time and we just really hit it off. And she was like, I can't pay you or anything, but you can come over and hang out and like do some work for free and see if you like
And
it.
listen, learning is learning.
Yes, yeah. And I w was like, yes, I really liked her. I liked the atmosphere of the building. I was like, I'm all in. So I did that and for less than a semester because it was really informal. And then decided really quickly, like, okay, this would definitely be a good career choice for me. So I then applied to and was accepted to the Denver Publishing Institute. And at this time, there was only the Denver Institute and the Columbia. And again, now there's a ton. Um, and I chose Denver because I didn't know that I wanted to live in New York. And Denver's, had just more of a wide swath of people coming in from all over the country to teach. And like that's where you were making those connections. So I graduated from it's a month-long intensive program. And at the end of it, you do job interviews if you want. And I got a job as a publicist in Naperville and at Source Books. And that was the start of my career. And yeah.
That's such a cool, that's such a cool trajectory. You were like, how do I make reading a job?
Yes, pretty much.
And that, I mean, that makes sense too, going from, well, first you got a specialized training, but
Mhm.
going from publicist to marketing makes, I mean, it's the same field.
Yes. Yeah. We kind of break it down in publicity is whatever you can get for free, and marketing something you might have to pay for is kind of the way that we like very simplify it to people.
That makes sense.
I actually would like to mention too that like I think most people, I very much assumed I would be an editor when I went into like the Denver publishing program because that's like I was the friend that edited all my friends' papers and checked everybody's stuff. And, we all have those people in our lives. And then the first 2 weeks of the program focused on editing and I hated it. I was like, and I like called my mom and I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I thought this was like it. And then we got into marketing and I was like, oh, well, okay, I'll just do this. Like this I like. But it was just not something I had ever even considered. And there are so many cool jobs in publishing that I wish everybody knew about. But editor's the only one we hear about, the only one you see on TV, the only one that kind of translates to newspaper, all the other, journalistic styles of writing. So it's a plug for everybody who doesn't find that that is their passion at the end of the day.
Which is weird because it's not like a particularly sexy job editing, right? It must just be like the only word people know, you
I
know?
think I think so.
Because yeah, I enjoy copy editing.
Mhm.
Um, but I would never want to do like it's part of the work I do at the Writing Center. Because we publish a couple of books a year and I love copy editing and for whatever reason, grammar stuck for me.
Yeah,
I cannot tell you, like I can't always count correctly,
same.
but I can do grammar rules. Uh, but I would like, I mean, doing that for a living, that's got to make reading suck.
That's what I think. I mean, and reading the same manuscript over and over and over again, and no, not for me.
And of course, there are several kinds of editing and editors, but still, I would not want that job. It makes sense. I never thought of it this way. Publicity and marketing with books. Like, of course, that would be fun. You found a
Mhm.
book you like and you get to tell people about it.
Yep, exactly. Yes.
What are some other jobs we might not know about?
There's rights and permissions management, which I never thought I would be interested in, but now I do a lot of as well. And that's basically, if someone wants to excerpt a chapter of your book for whatever reason, you have to, there's paperwork that goes along with this. As much as people like to think they can just post whatever, depending on what it is, you really shouldn't do that always. So, I would be the person at Iowa that you'd contact and say, like, I want to use this chapter for this purpose. Here's my proposal. And, I have to ask all the details, make sure what we're actually granting the rights for you to do. all of that stuff. So it's, it's detail oriented, but it's also another interesting way to see how people are using your books, which I find kind of fascinating at this point. Another thing that if you work in publishing, and again, like this is, I don't know, it's weird. I feel like in my, older age or whatever, it's kind of brought me to like, okay, maybe like I'm at the bean counting stage because like inventory and rights and permissions and like contracts, these are the things now, like the business of making a publishing venture work, I find really interesting. I never would have been able to get there though without years and years of experience doing all the other things. Because we have like our acquisitions editor, that would be the one who's reading the manuscript over and over to help development, do those things. Our managing editor manages a stable of freelance copy editors who, just keep the schedule moving. She also, of course, does some of that editorial work herself. But there's lots of scheduling. Then we have our production person who I work with really closely with inventory, print runs, things like that. And then, but also, she has a freelance designers that she works with for book covers and interior design and all that fun stuff. So, there's just so many avenues that you can go into if you like books, whether it be like for the artistic reasons or um, yeah, I don't know, the business of putting books out into the world. So, yeah.
Which, in general, so I I feel like marketing sounds terrible, right? Um, I feel like there's implicit in that is like advertising and sales, right?
Yes.
Um, but when I do marketing in this role at the Writing Center, it's really like this is just the stuff I love, and I'm just telling people about it. Like
Mhm.
you should be excited too that this exists. So
Yes.
that's I think that's an important and relevant thing. Like getting into marketing is different from having a marketing role you care about.
Yes. Well, and I think the other thing is, and this is what I say to students all the time. I'm like, I literally thought marketing and sales, the first thing that came to my mind as a young person was used car salesman. And
Hmm.
like, that's just, I was like, I have no interest in that. I don't want to do that. Who would want to do that? But as soon as we got into it, where I was like, okay, yes, this really is talking about books. That I can do, that I would do all day. And I think the other thing is that, if you work with books and in publishing, you're not trying to sell someone a book just to sell the book. I
Yeah.
mean, there's so much passion that comes into making a book into an actual book. So you are talking about, something you actually care about. And I can go home at the end of the day feeling like I'm putting good out into the world, like knowledge, whether it's knowledge or relaxing time for somebody or, you know, um, empathetic whatever it is. And I don't want to sell someone a book or someone to buy a book they don't want or don't like. We're trying to fill a void of things that wouldn't be published at the big five because the market's harder to find or, it is a harder, pitch. But that absolutely does not mean it's not worthy of publication and that there isn't, you know, there aren't people out there that this book could be the one that changes their life. So when you think of it that way, it's actually really easy and pleasant and fun to think of like, okay, I really am behind this book, and all I want is for people to know about it, whether they buy it or get it at their library. I'd like them to buy it so I can publish more books, but I would also like them to buy it because I believe in the product.
Yeah, and you wouldn't invest all that time in it. And I don't have any idea how many numbers, how many hours go into, a single 200-page book. But like it's so much. It
A
is
lot.
so much time, energy, money that goes into it. So like you really got to understand like people really care about this book if it's
Yes.
out in the world. That's also something, now, just to be clear, I don't have anything against self-publishing, but it is something to remember when I'm looking at especially small presses. I'm like, a lot of people are really invested in putting this into the world. And that's a selling point for me.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think the other thing is, you know, I have nothing against self-publishing either. I think it's great. And it's, it is, I've been in many conversations about gatekeeping in the publishing industry and all the other things. And I definitely have problems with some things in the publishing writ large world that can, could definitely be better. But at the same time, what you get when you publish with with an actual publisher, you get all these eyes on your book and you get objective viewpoints and expertise in various different areas. And that, to me is if I were an author, I would want that kind of support, and that kind of network to say, okay, I don't know how to, I can print this book and put it together, but like, how do I actually distribute it? How do I make sure that, all of these boxes are being ticked off, metadata, all the other things that are actually incredibly important. And to have someone, with the networks to do and the, backing to do that is invaluable, really.
For sure. Um, yeah, no, I don't think about it often because it's not my world. But it is sort of crazy what kind of sorry, his his bites are friendly, but I still don't want them. Um, yeah, what kind of investment other people put into your work must be so humbling. Um,
Yes.
so I'm going to try not to try to get all of like every small press question in. That's first not something we're capable of, but I don't want it to be like, okay, here's your small press primer. Um, but I am going to keep asking small press questions.
Sounds good.
Is there a difference between university presses and other indie presses?
Yes, university presses are mission based. So, ultimately I work for the University of Iowa, not just the University of Iowa Press. So with that, our each university press has, a mission tied to their university and, it's usually relatively general, ours includes things like regional history, history of Iowa, archaeology of Iowa, um, things like that, that again, someone in New York is not going to publish a book of essays about growing up in the plains and, you know, the life here necessarily. But, that's something that we want to exist. We feel it's important to be out there. Same with nature and ecology of the Midwest, particularly specifically. Clearly, this is important information to have, and sometimes the book form is the best way to get that information out into the world. So small presses, an indie press can make their own mission and publish whatever they would like. And while we sort of can do that, we also have these things we need to be looking for, as well as there is the academic aspect of it as well. So we have books that are very specific to whatever our your press specializes in. So an example for us is studies in theater, history, and culture. So these are very niche books, but they're award-winning in their field. We have fantastic series editors. I mean, it's an incredibly rewarding series to work on. But again, like this is never going to be reviewed in the New York Times. These are very specific books to those who work in the fields of study of theater history. And that doesn't mean they're not interesting and worthy. And again, like this is where something like a permissions thing would maybe come into play, where somebody sees, oh, you've written this book contains a chapter about this play I really care about and I want to do more on for whatever reason. So that's like the where the university press kind of fits into the pie of the whole pie of publishing.
That's really cool. I actually didn't know a lot of that. Uh, but thinking about what you were saying about the about theater history, having like I know that I have just no concept of how many fields of study or occupation or whatever exist. But having a place where you can go, where you can find like good information, good background, good vibes, honestly, about your field of expertise or interest, is really cool and really special. And and yeah, so maybe, maybe the audience is smaller for theater history.
Mhm.
Um, which I know is not the term that you used. It was a better term. Um, but also it is so, so important to a large number of people, like certainly larger than I think,
Mhm.
um, because so many people love theater.
Yes.
I don't know. That was exciting.
Yeah. Well, and those, I mean, again, like those are the types of things that, you know, no matter what press you go with, I mean, if you're an author looking to be published, like these are the types of things you actually want to do. You want to look at your publisher's a potential publisher's website and see, what are they publishing in and have they been publishing in it for a while? Because that will also tell you like where are their strengths in, both editorially, knowing that they have a whole stable of authors that they could ask to do peer review or things like that, as well as, we have marketing contacts and awards contacts in these very specific fields because we've been doing them for 50 years. And not every press is going to have that. So depending on what you're writing about, you know, your best experience is going to be with a publisher who is in your wheelhouse.
That's a really important point, not just about, excuse me, not just about, you know, knowing the venues to send the book for awards or review or whatever, but you don't want an editor who doesn't know the jargon.
Hmm.
I mean, that would be horrifying, especially if you use it wrong and then nobody catches it and then you're, embarrassed in your field, and it was like really a typo, but
Yes.
nobody had the expertise to know. That's really cool. Uh, clearly I don't have I don't have that issue.
That's all right.
Do you what are some books you're excited about that are coming out soon or that just came
Um,
out?
so, well, okay. We actually just had a book.
I will link the press website too.
Okay. We just had a book shortlisted for the Center for Fiction's first novel award. It's called Natch by Daryl Kinsey. It's a wonderful read. It's really depressing. It was one where I was like, I needed like a vampire ballerina, something to read after this one as well. Because but it's a shorter novel. It's a quiet love story that also has to do with, you know, child loss. I mean, it's kind of just a gut punch, but so well done, and again, and obviously, like don't take my word for it, take the Center for Fiction's award. Um, and I loved that book. And then this spring, I'm actually very excited. So this afternoon, I'm reading the final pages for a novel that we're publishing that is kind of like a sci-fi take on Britney Spears's story of, somebody coming to fame and then, you know, how that changes her entire life and she kind of loses herself. But then is there body snatching involved and other things like that? We
God,
shall see. So, I mean,
that's
this is
so cool.
yeah, so I'm like super pumped to like that's gonna be my afternoon is reading that. And I mean, there's another plug for working in marketing. Like you do get to read the fun, like my job is to read the fun stuff because I have different things to say about it than other people, even within the building. So it's just one of those. It's fun to have the conversations. It's fun to, think about ways why we all gravitate towards whatever we are interested in, even if it's within the same book, it's probably for different reasons. So I love that aspect of it. Um,
That's a that's a really good point. You said your job is to read the fun stuff, which is funny. Um, but like if you don't, right? If you're so enmeshed in a specific genre or topic or whatever, then you do lose a lot of nuance, weirdly, in being able
mhm.
to understand what people want or what is generally like a good thing to have about a book.
Yeah. Well, and I think the other thing that really attracted me to publishing in general was our the director when I was hired at the press, a wonderful, wonderful director. Uh, she told me, I remember she was like, the great thing about publishing is that you have an inch deep, mile wide knowledge. And that is very, very true. I mean, I know more random things about theater history than a lot of people who don't work in theater history. But like it's only this deep, but there's a lot there. And I'm okay with that. And I like being able to like participate in like, various kinds of conversations or see the connections that um these fields have outside of their field. And I don't know another job where that's a thing.
Yeah, that's I got really stuck on you saying inch deep mile wide knowledge. I was like, that's what I want.
Yes.
I heard somewhere, and I don't know if this is like a fact or anything, that if you read three books on a topic, you are going to be more expert than anyone else who's not in the field.
Hmm.
Which makes sense because who else is reading these books?
Hmm.
And that's also something that's really interesting to me. Not that I'm particularly invested in reading three books about dinosaur lawsuits,
Yeah.
but but it is an interesting idea. Um, shoot, I forgot what I said that led to that. Uh,
Well, I was just gonna say, I think that is true because if you did read three books on dinosaur loss, I mean, I
yeah,
don't know any other person who you would be able to not out
yeah.
knowledge at a conversation.
Um, so I had intended to ask, and then you've answered it through other questions about what kind of books the University of Iowa Press tends toward. So we know with your mission and your specialties what that sort of covers with Iowa history, with theater arts. Um, but also you you publish, I gotta say, all genre as far as I can tell. So you said, Iowa history and theater arts, and then we've got sci-fi celebrity.
Yep. Hmm.
I know that there's poetry. I know that there's memoir.
Hmm.
Is there anything like outside of the mission and expertise area that you feel like the press tends toward? I don't think I could answer this question about UI Press based on what I've read. So don't don't think I have an expectation here.
Um, I think every press is going to differ a little, like as your editors change over. And, I've been really excited that we're, in the world of novels because that really has only been the past 10 years, if that. And but it's a challenge for me marketing because there's so many books published every week that are novels. I mean, thousands. So, having your book make any kind of impact is, it takes time and it takes a lot of work, I will say. Um, but it's also the area where, fiction, you can kind of go in whatever direction that your, you know, editors fancy. And, I'm lucky to work in a place where there's not a lot of turnover. We know each other. So I will have, our director acquires books and we have an acquisitions editor, but they'll say like, I think you would like this. Can you read this and tell me what you think before we move forward? And so I get, like occasionally I do that. We're another thing that I'm excited we're publishing is a book about um well, it's so also very sad. So it's the story of the Supal familicide that happened in Iowa City, coupled with the story of the Holt family who started the Holt Adoption Agency and intercountry adoption from Korea. So I mean, it's a massive look at all of these things through the cosm of, like one horrific event. Um, but again, like this is something where we partially get to publish it and we're even approached because a lot of it takes place in Iowa City. But also, I mean, we're I don't have particularly, marketing contacts in like the adoption world. But that's been like an interesting, okay, so now we research this. Who are we going to reach out to for this? And how are we going to get the message to these people that this book exists? Because I've read it and it's really good and but it's just not something I think, true crime necessarily would be something you think of University of Iowa Press for. But it's actually also not our first true crime book. We've done several. So almost all of them have some kind of historical tie with them. And I think that's partially because that's what there's a Midwest history element there, but it's also, again, like this could be a bookstore anywhere. And, there's so many people, myself included, who are affected by, intercountry adoption. So there's that aspect as well. So, we do get to um, play in those fields that are not necessarily, so strictly about, Midwest history or fan studies or, something like that.
That is really, well, that book sounds really upsetting, but the research thing, I never would have thought of that. And that's something that I really love to, when I have occasion to look into that sort of thing, where it's like, yeah, where are the intersections? Who would be a good contact? Who will be excited about this? It's really, really fun. But you said something about your work in that office in particular that made me I think is a good note for folks who are interested in publishing or not, sorry, in publishing their own work in getting published. There it is. Whew. Um, that looking at a press's masthead, their editors, their publishing history, matters a lot, but also like the if it's a new editor. So masthead, for if I try to define phrases, is going to be the editorial crew, the people who are making the decisions about what goes out from from a. I usually see it in terms of small publications, anthologies, journals, but
Mhm.
um, so you can look at the publication history and say, yeah, okay, they've got 5 books similar to mine in theme or genre or topic or whatever. Probably not all of those things because in that case they already published it. Uh, but if they haven't published that sort of thing in 20 years and 20 years ago they got a new editor, like that's useful to know.
Mhm.
Um, that's
Well,
it.
and that information isn't always, our authors don't necessarily, or sorry, our editors don't necessarily have bios, like so you don't really can't always know, how long they've been there. But it is something, actually, what you said, I was like, okay, this is, so I just was talking to another marketing person at another press, and the phrase that she used that I loved is, your book should be in conversation with the other books that the publishing house works with. And one thing like no marketing or editorial, frankly, person wants to hear is my book is like no book that's ever been published because one, it's just not true. And two, it is my job to place your book appropriately in a marketplace and say like what books, if I go on
Or
Amazon and
fans of.
yes, and I search for blank, what other books do I want to pop up? So I don't want to hear that your book is like no other book because then I can't sell it.
Yeah, you do hear that a lot.
A
And
lot.
yeah, no, I wouldn't have thought of that. I wouldn't have thought of that. But yeah, I do know it's frustrating to hear. And also like everybody is gonna say that sort of thing.
Well, I mean, you wrote the book that you wanted to exist in the world, right? So it didn't, and that's laudable, of course. But you came to write this book by reading and ingesting a ton of other information. So what led you there? How did you get here? And I mean, even if you think about it backwards, kind of in that way, you'll be able to kind of come up organically with a list of like, yes, this is who, like these are the writers I want to be, you know,
In
on
conversation
their
with.
Substack or talking to, or exactly, or I like if I sent them my book and I would, I would love to have a positive endorsement from them because I like was so deeply affected by their book.
I think about in sports there's a coaching tree that they talk about, which is like I'm not into sports, so it's weird that I know this term. Um it's like this coach coached this player who later became a coach and coached these six
Oh.
players who became, and I think that's
Hmm.
really like a college thing, and then they go on to this pro team. And
Hmm.
I think about it kind of like that, where it's like I want to be in the family tree of these writers.
Yes.
Like it doesn't have to be, I mean, presumably we have things in common. Like um can no longer think of any popular writers. I like Stephen King. I don't write anything like him, topic or voice or anything. We have nothing in common as writers. I'm not in his literary family tree.
Hmm.
Um, but I like to think that I could be in Alyssa Washuda's family tree,
Hmm.
right? You can see how her work influences me
Yes.
pretty clearly.
Yes. And the other thing to do, if you're interested in broadening your own scope is I can't recommend enough reading acknowledgments in books to see, you literally just get all that information is right there. Where has their work previously been published? Who is their agent? Who are they thanking? You know, that's huge and has led me down many a rabbit hole
Oh yeah.
of useful information
And the blurbs.
and the
Most of the
blurbs.
time, blurbs are going to be either their friends or people their publisher thought they have something in common with.
Yes. Yes. And again, I mean, this is, as important no matter what kind of book you're writing, whether it's an academic for, coursework, you want other academics, you want, again, like you want someone who knows the jargon, who understands what you were trying to say to your specific field and, you know, is able to endorse your take on the situation. And, if you're writing fiction, you want someone who writes, yes, in your family tree and wants, is putting that same kind of work out and again, if I'm putting something in and you might like, I want to know who other authors from both the press that I work at and the other presses, because all of that information will like go out to a sale. Well, it will all be used somehow.
I do want to go back to acknowledgments because that was a really good and I think important point. I think a couple of things. To the layman, the acknowledgments sound like dedications.
Mm,
It's not the case.
no.
But yeah, in acknowledgments, a writer is pretty often required to say where their work's been published before.
Hmm.
Um, they're definitely going to thank editors and agents. And then there's a new trend I've noticed where um, they'll say, here's what I was reading while I wrote this, or here's what I was listening to while I wrote this. And I think that is really, well, really fun, but really useful too. I'm glad you brought up acknowledgments.
Yeah. Yeah. I love soundtracks for books.
Me
That's
too.
yes.
I've been
Yeah.
thinking
Well, and
about, go ahead.
I was just gonna say it's just like it just opens like a whole another fun layer of, connecting with the author.
Yeah, I think of it like liner notes on an album.
Mhm. Yes.
Shoot, there was something else that's in acknowledgments. Oh yeah, yeah, you said this. The folks they're thanking often are, I know this kept very well. The folks they're thanking often are people in their literary circle too. So it's
Mhm.
like maybe this person didn't have a hand in the publishing or whatever, but if they're pretty well known or went to school about writing,
Mhm.
the people who are going to be in there are going to be other writers that you can look into, like
Yes.
their workshop group or their teachers or
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, okay, I'm watching the time.
That
Is there anything you want to add? Anything you think is important for this conversation? I'm just assuming we'll talk again.
Oh, I would love that. Uh, I think if you're looking to be published, you know, I don't know, I guess I would say don't discount university presses, don't discount, presses who don't, you don't need an agent to submit work to. I mean, this is something where I can honestly say I go to the conferences with other people who work in your university presses. And Sarah, where we met, where there's writers galore, you can't, you know, walk
You're gonna trip
5
over them.
feet without somebody with a manuscript. Exactly. And, but like the one thing that we all seem to have in common is that, everybody wants, it's such a supportive network. I mean, we all feel like all boats float other boat. It's not, while
Rising
there, of
tide
course,
lifts all
there's
boats.
yeah, of course, there's competition, and you want, your manuscript to get picked before, whoever's. But at the
But I
same
like to think that it's
time,
like the good competition where like, oh, look what a cool person I'm like next to in this.
yes, yeah, and
I like
also
to think that.
everybody I know that works in like press in publishing, cool people who, really just care about getting books in the world for whatever reason. So, I mean, I've never really met a university press person or someone else who works in an indie press that I've not immediately connected with on some level, because there's that baseline of, maybe like the Station 11 type mindset of like, this is why we're here. Like, this is what makes it, humanity. I don't know. And like that's like a pretty bold, broad, huge statement, but at the same time, you know,
Stories have created us. That's just
yes,
that's a personal belief of mine. Like the stories that we have told are what make us who we are.
yes. And I think that when you're in conversation, whether it's as you're talking to your publicist or your editor or whoever, we all have that core belief that the humanities is really important and something that we want to support in whatever way that we can. So, you know, I think, and the other thing I would say to aspiring writers is, you know, it's really important to think about what success actually looks like for you and your book, and to be open to having those conversations with people. You want to work with a publisher who will be able to help you have that kind of success. And but it's helpful for them too to know, what are you really looking to do with your work, and how can we support that mission for you while supporting our own mission as well. I mean, it's very much like a marriage, right? I mean, you sign the contract and you're in it. um so you want to be on the same page and know what you're getting into, and trust all parties. And we, on the publisher side, we want that too. Like, we have the nicest authors. I'm always, thrilled to meet new authors. And but I do, like, I as the marketing person, I want to know, like, is your idea of success, what is it? Because we can't do everything. We're, because of various limitations that every single publisher is going to have, even the big four, who are going to focus a lot of dollars and time on
Three
just their top
authors.
sellers.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yes, and that's the world that we live in.
You mentioned something, and I will totally wrap up after this, but I meant to ask the University of Iowa Press, and I would assume all university presses is submission based.
Hmm.
So that means, because what you said is somewhere where you don't need an agent to submit. That means you can just send your work to them. I mean, do it like look at their guidelines, look what they require for a submission. Because if you don't follow the instructions, you will not get read. Um, but yeah, there's no procedural red tape stopping you from so many presses. I think all of my favorite presses are small presses, not like that sounds really obvious. There's just more small presses, but um And that is less of a barrier to entry for your manuscript.
Hmm. Yes. And again, like we most again, like also again, most publishing it's we work with agents also. It's not like Iowa's a bit unique in that, you know, Iowa is known for writing, and so we are able to, we have connections even though we're in Iowa City that other people, other presses just aren't going to have. So we're really lucky in that way. But at the same time, I really do feel like all of us take joy in that, like that manuscript that just kind of floated in that we weren't expecting, and we all love it, and it's so fun. So, and that just isn't, while yes, it's great to work with agents and have that another person to cheerlead your book, it just you don't need it, and your book can do great without that.
What a nice ending point. Um, let's okay, so I will weird. This is me wrapping up. Thank you for hanging out, for bringing your expertise. I'm going to give updates on the Midwest Writing Center, and then we will do that free write. Um, I'm just going to keep it to bullet points with our Writing Center updates. We have a few things coming up that are really exciting. And I'm not going to like go too far into the future. I'm personally grateful for a quiet autumn. Um, we have a new program that just kicked off yesterday, which is a formal critique group for poets. It uses a modified version of Liz Lerman's critical response process. I could not think of the term, which is a an inquiry-based workshop method, and it's very holistic. I'm very into this particular method. Um, It exists on a pay what you can basis. So um, if you can't, that's fine. But it is for folks who are looking to publish their poetry, who are working very seriously toward a goal with their poetry. And that is the third Wednesday of the month. We're just starting it off this year. So we had one yesterday, there'll be one in November, one in December. Led, of course, by our director, Ryan Collins, who is an accomplished and published poet. That sounds silly to say. Then we have Memory Keepers, our group for folks looking to document and preserve their family histories, their family legacies. That's a totally free group that meets once a month. The next meeting is October 30th at 1 p.m. at the Rock Island Public Library in the community room. Um, there's a bit of a support system in place there. They sometimes have experts in documenting or writing or genealogy come in to talk about things. There are tips and tools, and there's also prompts to generate you to, jog your memory. Um, yeah. Then what I'm really, really excited about, we have upcoming workshops. On November 8th, we have Writing Queer Joy. That is a generative poetry workshop with Amy Whitmore, who's an incredible and prolific poet. And she also had a chapbook come out with MWC Press called Hesitation Waltz. Then on November 18th, we have a workshop with Jeffrey Wolf, who has taught workshops with us before. He's really good as an instructor, but specifically this workshop is on research for writers, for creatives, and how to do that, how to make it work for you. And the reason I say he's really good at as an instructor in particular is because when he does workshops like this, where it's maybe not on the creative aspect of things, he makes it really, really accessible and navigable, navigatable. I've taken all of his workshops that we've offered, so that's how I know that. We also are open for submissions for an adaptation anthology. This is our third time collaborating with the Galvin Fine Arts Center at St. Ambrose University, using their arts and sciences theme for the year as the theme for the collection. That's open to writers in the six county service area of the Midwest Writing Center. So Henry, Rock Island, and Mercer counties in Illinois, and Scott, Clinton, and Muscatine counties in Iowa. It pays $100 for publication, and then you have the opportunity to record audio of the of your work, perform on stage for up to $5,000, $500, my goodness, at a audience juried reading. So the top five winners will get cash prizes, which is awesome. That doesn't happen very often. Um, Guidelines for submission for that are on the website. They are many, but the long and short of it is you should be in the general Quad Cities area. And if you're writing poetry, it should be 30 lines or fewer. And if you're writing prose, it should be 500 words or fewer. And that's where I'm going to stop for my updates. Allison, did you want to present the prompt? I can do it if you would prefer.
I was gonna say I have it somewhere, but
I will say, folks who are hanging out with us at home, as always, set yourself 5-10 minute timer so that you use the time that you have. No pressure situation. However your writing comes out is however it comes out. And here is the prompt Allison provided for us. Write a letter to the first person who believed in your writing. So whatever comes is whatever comes, but I I think this is so good. I think that particularly with the conversation we had, remembering that our writing is important and someone believes in us is so good. Um, Thanks for hanging out today, and as always, please write more light into your life.